Think you can get away without using an editor for your story? That kind of thinking might be a bad idea. My guest explains why in this week's episode of the Journey to KidLit podcast, number 15. Welcome to the Journey to KidLit podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Van Sickle, and each week on the show, we'll discuss what it takes to write, publish, and market your kids' book. Let's get started. This episode is brought to you by the Ultimate Writing Binder, the number one resource all children's book writers need to go from idea to finished kids' book. To learn more, visit journeytokidlit.com/ultimate writing binder. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Journey to KidLit podcast. Something we haven't talked about a lot on the podcast is being able to take feedback on your writing, but it's essential if you're going to write a good story. Today, I'm revealing a short snippet of wisdom from my guest speaker, Celie Mack, on why you need an editor to review your story before you send it out for publication. This is especially important if you plan on self-publishing and won't have a publisher or agent with their eyes on your work before you send it off into the world. Let's listen to what Celie had to say about working with an editor.
Editing is one of the most important parts of the publishing process. Good editing is going to elevate your book, no matter what. No manuscript is perfect. It can't be. No matter how much you love it, it is not perfect. You're not going to be able to catch all your typos, all your weird grammar, all your formatting errors. And when the story's long enough and you take the time in between when you write certain parts of it, your style will change. And even your characters might evolve and change when you really didn't mean them to. So that's why we bring other people into the process. And those other people can be friends, family, or professional editors, which you should really think about doing. Mm-hmm. If your manuscript is over 1,000 words, you need a professional. If you're saying that your manuscript is perfect and no, you don't need any help, perfection is subjective. What an author thinks is perfect is not what a reader thinks is perfect. And even another author would not think it's perfect either. Mm-hmm. So, though going through something like a professional editor, it's for the first time, it's going to hurt your feelings. Yeah. It's going to be a massive kick to your ego. I've been there. I went through developmental editing and copy editing. Both made me want to cry. I had to put my book down for a little while and then come back later. But it is very, very helpful in perfecting your story.
Do you have any tips for how to overcome that ego kick? Because I know that happens and it hurts.
Go take a shower, cry in there. As long as you don't get on the phone with them, you can say anything you want about them. To your friends, to your family. I have definitely said some nasty words about my editor. But in the end, it helped make it so much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And realizing it's about your story and not personal attack on you.
Yeah. And I think they're like children. My book is my child. It goes away to school and it learns these different things from other people. And that's the same thing my book does. It has to evolve and grow from other people.
Yes.
And it's helpful and it grows into a better book.
Hopefully that little clip helped alleviate some of your worries you might have about someone reading your work. Remember, it's better for an editor to give you the feedback you need than to read about it in a 1-star review on Amazon. Later in this interview, Celie goes on to explain the different types of editors you'll want to consider for your story, including editorial, copy edit, and line editors. They all do different things to help your writing, and you'll need them at different parts of the process. You can listen to the full interview with Celie to get all of his tips on working with an editor in the KidLit Indie Publishing Summit. Remember, the summit is a 4-day event with 16 different presentations on how to write and self-publish a children's book, and it's all 100% free. You can learn more at KidLitIndiePubSummit.com or through the post for this episode under the podcast tab at journeytokidlit.com, episode number 15. Well, that about does it for today's episode of the Journey to KidLit podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have a thought about today's episode or a suggestion for future ones, send me an email or reach out to me via Twitter. And if you liked what you heard, be sure to leave a review. And while you're there, subscribe to be notified of new episodes. Until next time, happy writing.